Hi, it's Troy at the Full Setup here, back with another video for you today. And today I want to talk about 4K. We've got 4K TVs, 4K Netflix, 4K Amazon, 4K smartphones. We've got 4K Kaby Lake, woo, and we've even got a PlayStation 4 that thinks it can do 4K. Come down to it, if you're not repping 4K in 2017, you're probably a dick. Well, not really, because 4K PC gaming is still absolutely ridiculously expensive. At the bare minimum, you can run a 1070 and a monitor, which will probably shed you back probably, I don't know, $800, not 800, £900 as well, dollars or pounds, same price. Really, you need to go and buy a GTX 1080 or a Titan XP, plus then you're going to want a nice gaming monitor, you're probably going to want G-Sync or FreeSync. Now, when you buy those two together, that costs more than most PCs that like 99% of people can afford. So I understand it's probably not going to happen for another couple of generations. But then this is one thing I've learned. Now, I talk to a lot of budget gamers on a daily basis. Thank you for all your comments, because I like to focus on doing budget builds as well as higher end stuff. And one thing I've realised is that you're just gamers. You love playing games. Now, it doesn't ultra, you would love it, but it's not the be all and end all for you. I speak to so many people, like I'm more than happy enough to do 1080p at medium as long as I'm getting 60 frames per second. So then I thought, my GTX 1060 6GB can pretty much tear up any game at 1080p. It's always kicking between 80 and 100 frames per second, and I just absolutely love it. When you go down to 1440p, again, you're looking at 50-60 frames per second, and that's at high settings. So then I thought, well, if you drop that setting level again down to medium, can we do 4K? Now, as you can see from this video, it is recorded at 1080p resolution. So what I'm using in this to make all this gaming footage is I'm using dynamic super resolution. That helps me basically render at a higher resolution. So I can render at 1440p and play it back at 1080p settings, and the same for 4K. Now, I also know a lot of games include this as well. They have like a resolution slider, so you can up the resolution. So as for the rest of the PC as well, I thought I don't want any bottlenecks here, so I'm pairing it with an i7-5820K overclocked at 4.3 GHz per core. We've got 32 GB of DDR4 RAM. I don't know when a game's ever going to use that. And my GTX 1060 6GB is a Palit Super Jetstream. It's overclocked at over 2100 MHz boost. Now, how has that overclocked helped me? Well, one thing you'll realise is my overclock is going to give me between a 5 and 15 frames per second boost in performance. But I'm recording in Shadowplay, which is going to cut me out between 5 and 15 frames per second. So what you're seeing here, this footage that you're about to see, is going to give you the idea of what you would get with a stock 1060. So anyway, let's see this 4K 1080p-ish footage.
Overhaul.
Oh, g'day, Kira. What'd you say? Something about brakes?
We're taking the Great Ocean Road to Byron. Just please, don't do anything stupid.
Liberty Dome. One big sweaty armpit. Not that you'd notice inside that suit, but it's hotter than a Vindaloo in here.
I'll deal with you personally.
Already here. Got to get inside.
So there's the benchmarks, and as you can see, the GTX 1060 does absolutely fantastic at 4K at medium settings. Obviously, there were some games that didn't perform as well in there, so let me just talk about those a little bit more. Assassin's Creed, Syndicate, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now, those games you can easily play between 30 and 40 frames per second. As much as 60 plus frames per second is nice for those games, they are more than playable at those frame rates. Also, you might notice that Pure Hair was turned off for Rise of the Tomb Raider. I did turn it back on yesterday, and I didn't really see much of a difference in frame rate, so you could probably turn that on. Crysis as well. Sorry, there wasn't much footage there. First time I've ever played Crysis. I've got to get used to it, but that obviously performed a lot better when I wasn't recording. And Doom as well, you might notice that was hovering around 40 frames per second. That is because you can't record on Vulkan with Shadow Play, so I have to go into the desktop, hit record and load Doom. Now that always, I find, actually gives me a bigger FPS drop. I was actually finding I was more hovering around 50-55 frames per second without recording. But other than that, Forza played really well. I was quite surprised with that because I only get 60 frames per second in Forza Ultra anyway, 1080p, but that's a bad optimized game. Battlefront, that absolutely smashed it. Battlefield 1 was really good as well. The only really weak one I'd say, and there was probably Black Ops 3. You could even see that the GPU wasn't at full usage whilst rendering 4K, so I think that might be some optimization. Another thing I've learned from this video as well is that I know a lot of you are now buying RX 480s and 1060s. You've spent that extra money. You're happy to pay that now for a really good experience, but you're still on 60 Hz monitors. That means you're turning on VSync and adding in input lag. Now, either upping the render resolution or maybe rendering it 1440p or 4K means that you can keep it just under 60 frames per second. You're not breaking that 60 Hz boundary, so you won't have any tearing and you won't need VSync turned on, so you're going to have better mouse response. Anyway, I think that's probably the last video for me for the next week, so I've been doing a lot recently and I'm going on holiday next week, so bye.